we've got news about the possible expansion plans at the Disneyland Resort. And with this published EIR report, we're getting a sneak peek at what Disney has in store. 13 rides? Third gate? Maybe even an expansion of the Monorail line. And is that a people mover? Let's take a look at this and find out. So you've heard about Disneyland Forward, right? This was an expansion plan revealed by Disney 2.5 years ago. Yes, it's been that long. The initial concept art showed Disney wanted to expand the parks into the Simba parking lot next to the Pixar Place Hotel, as well as the parking lot on the opposite side, currently the Disneyland Hotel parking area and the Downtown Disney parking area. That plus a Downtown Disney-like update to the Toy Story parking lot. And that whole plan, that whole pitch from Disney is finally going to go before the city of Anaheim to have them vote on it in early 2024. Well, hopefully anyway. That's the going assumption. We're hoping that it gets done maybe in January, February of 2024. And it looks like the city of Anaheim is ramping themselves up in the process, getting ready for that because they just published, the city did, not Disney, but the city just published Disney's submission of the environmental impact report. It's part of an extensive 17,000-page report covering all manner of studies. And that EIR goes into issues such as air quality, greenhouse emissions, and noise pollution. Now, I won't bore you with any of the details about what the geological studies have shown with regard to what this project might do to the soil samples on the site lot, but I will show you this. This is the image that got everybody stirred up yesterday on social media. It's something that we've never seen before, and it's got some very interesting points to observe. Quick primer on what we're looking at. This space is the proposed expansion area. That's the Simba lot in the lower third, the Disneyland Hotel and Downtown Disney parking lots in the upper third. And then in between those two are the Disneyland Hotel and the Pixar Place Hotel, as well as a little bit of Downtown Disney. And then over to the right, you've got Disneyland and DCA. And then the blue areas to the left are the Walnut Street apartments. And that's what this whole study is about, is all of this proposed planning, this update to those parking lots. What is the impact on the Walnut Street apartments, the noise pollution impact? The map in general is illustrating the varying degrees of noise pollution in the area. Blue is light impact, orange is very noisy. Again, but that's not really why we're here. We're not here to study the effects of Disneyland Forward on noise pollution in the area. We're not here to study that. We're here to study that actual rendering because, as I mentioned, this is something that we've never seen before. And there are some really interesting, enlightening tidbits to that rendering. It's giving us an opportunity to learn more about what Disney is hoping to do with this space without them coming right out and telling us because they can't. For example, we're looking at, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thrill rides. 3 below and 2 above. How is this possible with the Walnut Street apartments right next door? It's something that we've talked about in previous videos. Our concerns about how much of this is theoretically possible with that in mind. Disney's addressing this, according to this rendering, by installing 12-foot noise cancellation barriers around the perimeter. That's those thick black lines. Now, as for the report, it indicates that certain rides, outdoor thrill rides, roller coasters, are not permitted within 300 feet of a residential area. Meanwhile, 300 feet isn't exactly a big distance. It's barely enough distance, really, to cover the space between the apartments and the park boundary, the perimeter. So maybe another 100 feet or so inside is more than enough, I think, to be safe. Such is the case where they have this thrill ride located in the lower lot. And then another one here in the upper lot, both centrally located with significant sound buffers in between. But that's not even the most interesting part about the attractions being indicated in this rendering. What's significant is that there's 5 thrill rides being planned. 13 attractions in total are indicated in this art. And that seemed like a lot to me the first time I put my eyes on this, to the point where I thought, there's no way. How are they going to put 13 attractions in that space? Especially with the way that they build attractions now. Rise, Millennium Falcon, Runaway Railway, they're all enormous. Heck, they can't even build a dark ride like Little Mermaid the way they used to. But they are, in fact, trying to build 13 attractions in this space, and that tells me that they're at least vaguely interested in building attractions on a smaller scale. Not all of them are going to be these large footprint attractions, which it seems like they would want to do more of that than less. But I'm here to tell you that every land, every development is better off by mixing in not you can't just have e-tickets. You need smaller attractions to go with those e-tickets. And I would be I would be very excited if that turned out to be the case because I love the idea. It's one of the reasons why I love Fantasyland so much. It's one of the reasons why people love Disneyland more than, let's say, Disney World, Magic Kingdom. It, the attractions are all very similar. There's a certain quality to them that they're all very similar, but something separates Disneyland from Magic Kingdom, and it's the coziness of the whole thing. It's very more intimate, I think, is it's because they've compressed everything at Disneyland, and you feel like everything is right next to each other. They've got I don't know how many rides are there in Fantasyland. You've got 5 of them, 6, 7, 8, 8 of them, all right there in that little section. Meanwhile, you go to Galaxy's Edge and there's 2. It's 12 acres. If I had any complaint, I do love Galaxy's Edge, but if I had any complaint about it, it's that there's not enough to do. And that some of those things that you need to do, especially, are for families that have kids that are younger than, or smaller than 40 inches tall. It's why I love Toontown now. It was kind of like this before, but Toontown there's just a bunch of things to do. There's 3 proper attractions with 3 proper attractions, 3 rides, as it were, plus 2 meet and greets, 2 large scale meet and greets, and a bunch of other little things that you can do in there. I love Toontown. But it's that intimate quality to Toontown. It's that cozy quality because you fit all that. I think all that happens in Toontown in 6 or 8 acres or something like that. Tiny 6 acres, I think it is. Anyway, I've already gotten off onto a tangent. I'm just happy to see that they're at least they've got that in their mind. They're at least thinking along those terms, hopefully. But let's say that they do have bigger plans. Well, there's room for that too. There's about 30 acres of available space in each lot, with the lower lot being slightly bigger than the upper lot. I want to say something like 32 acres in the lower lot and maybe 27, I think, in the upper lot. To give that some perspective, Galaxy's Edge is roughly 14 acres. I said 12 before, 14 acres. Tomorrowland, it's about the same. And those are the 2 biggest lands in the entire resort. Even Cars Land, with its enormous Radiator Springs acres footprint, that's 12 acres. So you've got room in that 30-acre lot for a big land like Galaxy's Edge or Tomorrowland, for a big land, and then room for more, a second land. So, but my guess is probably 2 medium-sized lands together. 2 15-acre. Well, that actually Galaxy's Edge is 14, so you could build 3 lands in there. My goodness, you could actually build 3 lands perhaps, but we're going to call it 2. We're going to say they're going to build 2 good-sized lands in each lot. Each of those lands will have 3 attractions each, and each with at least 1 major thrill ride. That's a pretty good deal in my opinion. 5 thrill rides, 13 attractions total. Here's something interesting. Those red dots connected by red lines, those are meant to indicate sources of noise. They also appear to follow a pattern that resembles guest traffic. And those guests are shown to be entering these lands from here, here, and here. Now, we've seen these before in the original plans and concept art. This is likely going to be an overpass bridge from DCA, right around where that big gate is next to Paradise Garden with the Pixar ball on there. This one is obviously downtown Disney. And this one, which is a little more vague and it's hidden by the chart legend, but I believe these guests would be from an overpass bridge connected to the rear of Critter Country. Now, what's interesting is that there's a path very similar to how those look, and that is, the path with the sort of lowest, darkest shade of yellow, and that means less noisy, fewer guests. And that to me suggests that people are coming and going, they're leaving rather than circulating within the park. The act of leaving is quieter than circulating. Are these guests passing through downtown Disney between 2 lots? If that is the case, this could possibly suggest that this is one large park, a third gate. Now, I know I know that language, those words, cause a lot of excitement with Disneyland fans. It's exciting to think about. It's exciting to think about a third gate. But I think that those areas are for a different purpose. And the reason is, first, I don't believe that, even though this is a bigger space than we might have imagined, it's still not big enough to support an entire park as an entire, a new park, a full park. Disneyland, that's 100 acres. Disneyland is. DCA, which is widely considered to be not a full day park, barely a full day park if it is. That park is 72 acres. So at 60, we're coming in well under what could be a conceivably reasonable sized all day park. 60 acres, that's just not enough. Meanwhile, the original plans that we saw 2.5 years ago, they were really leaning into the idea that the bottom lot was an extension of DCA, the upper lot was an extension of Disneyland. So those paths that we see in the rendering, they could just be a cleaner exit into downtown Disney, from each land, rather than making guests go all the way back to the main entrance. Let's say you just want to go back to the hotel. You've gone to, the DCA extension, and you just want to go back to your hotel. I don't think they want to make you go all the way to the gate and then have you come back the full distance down through downtown Disney. So they're giving you an exit, and then they could just install gates at each entrance to verify guest tickets in the same way that they do today at the downtown Disney monorail entrance. Not to mention, I feel like it would be pretty messy to try to figure out a way to sequester guests from, the guests that are park attendees that do have a ticket to Disneyland, sequester those from the rest of the people that you're intersecting with in downtown Disney that may or may not have a ticket to Disneyland. You can't have those guests mixing. You'd have to build some sort of fancy overpass to skip all that. They're not going to do that. So I do still think, in spite of the fact that we're talking about so many thrill rides, so many attractions, and 60 acres worth of space, I do still think that these are not a third gate and that these are going to be extensions of the existing parks. I will also add at this point that I do think that as guests, we're getting a better value with that setup. I know, as I mentioned, that people get really excited when they talk about the idea of a third gate, and I think that's born out of, I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but Walt Disney World, they've got 4 parks. The idea of spending a week down there and spending a whole day in each park, that sounds really great. That sounds really cool. It's Epcot Day, it's Magic Kingdom Day, whatever. That sounds very romantic and very fun. And gosh, I wish we could do that here at Disneyland, but we've just got the 2 parks. That's all we've got. So the idea of adding a third pushes us closer to being a full-fledged resort. But as a pure guest of Disney, and that's what I lean into. I'm just a guest, and for me, the only thing that matters, the bottom line, the only thing that matters is capacity. Adding more capacity to the park so that they can more room for more people. In this way, we get 30 acres of more park for each park at the same price as our original ticket. 30 acres each, 2 lands, 6 or 7 attractions for the same price is a pretty good deal, don't you think? All right, so it won't be exactly the same price. Instead of $120, it'll be $130 or something like that. We paid for Galaxy's Edge in the same way, but it's not gonna. It won't be at least $120 plus another $120, as is the case right now for Disneyland and California Adventure. You're not having to pay now $360 for that park hopper or whatever. It's not $360, but you get my point. Is that it's significantly less. You're saving. It's a better value for us if they just expand the parks rather than making us buy a third ticket. And it'll also be spread out over time. Mind you, they're not going to build all of this all at once. Maybe one land and a couple of attractions, open that up, and then they'll build some more. The whole thing is supposed to take 30 years. And the best part is that if you build it as an expansion instead of a third gate, it opens up the possibilities. It makes it easier for Disney to do something like this, or even this, right? I know. I didn't say it. I didn't bring this up. It's in the book. It's in the report. Included in the 17,000-page proposal is a section discussing the pedestrian circulation plan. I quote, "The development of new attractions, an increase in the number of hotel rooms, and the construction of the peripheral public parking facilities and mass transit systems discussed in this section have increased pedestrian activity in both the specific plan area and the surrounding Anaheim resort. This has enhanced the urban character of the specific plan area and requires that facilities be provided to meet the needs of pedestrians." That's the fancy way of saying we need a people mover or something like it. It goes on to say that we've already got bridges in place like the one in downtown Disney, and we could build more, as discussed earlier, that would connect existing DCA and existing Disneyland with the expansion project. We could do that, or we could build a themed ride system. That's the Skyway at Walt Disney World. That's the people mover at Walt Disney World. Disney put those in the proposal. Now, it doesn't go any further than that. It doesn't say anything at all. It doesn't go into any kind of detail about how they might implement those systems or where they would go, what their purpose would be. It's only suggesting that that's something that they could do. It would be a good idea to add these to the project to help circulate guests. Now, I want to say I think it's safe to assume what they're talking about here is just to connect the old park with the new park, because there is a street, an actual traffic vehicle roadway in between these two lots. So you can't just have people crossing the street, hitting the hitting the button at the turn signal, or at the intersection, so that gets there's no way that's not feasible. So that's why they're bringing this up, as opposed to, let's say, doing something fun like just installing a people mover in Tomorrowland. Don't hold your breath on that. But personally, I don't care. It's not a people mover in Tomorrowland I'm in love with. It's just the idea of people movers in general. I love people movers. I would even go for a Skyway. We just did one at San Diego Zoo, and even though I was terrified, I thought it was fantastic. I loved being able to cross the park in the way that we did. So I don't care where or how they try to install one of these. I just want them to do it. What I would also like to see, what I also take, is more monorail, which, by the way, is mentioned specifically in this report in terms of how and where they might do it. Now, hold on to that, because this part might be the most interesting thing that I discovered as I was perusing this report. This whole thing fascinates me. Under conveyance systems, it says, in addition to an extensive network of landscaped pedestrian thoroughfares, conveyance systems will transport Disneyland Resort guests around the Anaheim Resort. The monorail guest transportation systems shall move guests within the theme park district. Future connections may also be provided to the Southeast District. What is the Southeast District? It's this slice right here, otherwise known as the Bullseye Lot for those familiar with the Toy Story parking lot. In this lot, they are proposing to build up to 390,000 square feet of theme park space and up to 1,852 hotel rooms. Now, let me back up. In the original plan, Disney said that their hope was to turn the Toy Story parking lot into a Disney Springs. Not exactly downtown Disney. It looks more like something that they do currently at Walt Disney World at Disney Springs. That was their proposal. And now we can see that part of that proposal is to build actual theme park space. They want to turn that lot into a mixed use retail, theme park, and hotel, all in that Toy Story lot. So what is then 390,000 square feet of theme park space? Well, it's about 9 acres. Maybe it's something like Main Street, USA. I suggest this because it's a logical connection between themed entertainment, theme park, and retail, which is the whole purpose of the Disney Springs area, retail. And I would dig it. But whatever they choose, that space is bigger than I would have guessed. 22 acres. The Bullseye lot is 22 acres. You can put all of Galaxy's Edge in the Bullseye lot, half of the Bullseye lot. But in general, a Toy Story lot is bigger than I thought it was, bigger than my imagination could ever conceive. 72 acres. The Toy Story lot is 72 acres, which is, as it turns out, the same size as California Adventure. Now, as amazing as all of that is, that's not even why we're here. That's not even why I'm talking about the Toy Story lot. I mentioned something before. This is the really interesting part for me as a fan, and that's that whole Southeast District thing. The Southeast District is a specially zoned area that right now is the Bullseye lot. Future connections of the monorail may also be provided to the Southeast District. They're really saying that they might build an extension of the monorail track to Toy Story. They're going to connect. They want to connect the Toy Story lot to the rest of the Disney Resort via monorail. That's awesome. That is awesome. One of the things that I enjoy most, let me just tell you, one of the things I enjoy most about Walt Disney World is all the different means of conveyance that get you from point A to point B. I love the fact that it is so spread out. I just got done saying one of the reasons why people love Disneyland is it's the coziness and the intimacy. But I like having to take a monorail to get between parks, or a bus, or maybe a boat. I don't know. I mean, it sounds fun. It sounds cool. I took them anyway. I don't want to get off on a sidetrack, but just the idea of being able to take the monorail from Disneyland to the Toy Story lot sounds really cool. And it's actually quite necessary, because you can't put Disney Springs in the Toy Story lot and then just call it a day, because you have to somehow connect that with Disneyland. That's why I've never said that Toy Story would ever make a good third gate, and it still wouldn't make a good third gate, even though you could fit one in there. It doesn't work because it's so disconnected from the rest of the Disneyland property. But if they could build a monorail, now you got something. And you need that. You can't just send people to Disney Springs and then tell them to go home. You got to give them the option to also then carry on that day from Disney Springs into the Disneyland Resort, or vice versa. Take a break from the Disneyland and go to Disney Springs. That's the thing. I mean, obviously, people could still just go to Disney Springs, but we got to be able to also let them go to Disneyland from there, and not just by a bus. The least sexy means of travel, the bus. This is the reason why people don't park at Toy Story, is because it's a bus and not a tram, even though it is significantly more efficient going from Toy Story to Disneyland than it is from the Mickey and Friends parking lot. But that's a conversation for another day. Okay, so and one final thing as we wrap this up. They're building 4 lands, 13 attractions, another 390,000 square feet of theme park space, 1,800 hotel rooms. All of it in space that was previously occupied by a parking lot. Where are you going to put all of those cars? That is a really good question. You can't just build out on those parking lots and then call it a day. It's the same argument that I make when people say, hey, why can't you just build more park backstage? Well, because you need backstage. You can't just not have backstage. You can't just not have parking spaces. So this means that the Eastern Gateway project has to be included in this. Whatever they wind up doing, they're going to have to figure out a way to solve the Eastern Gateway project problem. You guys remember that? You guys remember? I did several videos on the Eastern Gateway project 7 years ago. They were supposed to build a parking lot back there 7 years ago, and they never did, because the project inhibited the parking lot. The Eastern Gateway is going to circumvent Harbor Boulevard, basically. They're going to have to figure that out. They're going to have to solve that problem. I invite you to watch that video, even though it's super dated and it's probably terrible. I haven't watched it in 7 years, so I have no idea how good or bad it is, but it's a 7-year-old video. It can't be very good. But we go into detail about what the issue is and why it didn't work out, and it didn't. But they can't do any of this. They can't do any of this Disneyland Forward stuff without the Eastern Gateway. And that's it. Let us know your thoughts, guys. I'm really curious to see or hear what you guys have to say about that. It got a little more real today for a lot of us, and that's because it's taken that next step towards getting approved by the city. And we've also got more detail. We can see, 17,000 pages of information. So they put in a lot of time and effort and money and research into this. So it's a very real thing that's happening. It's still conceptual in terms of what that park will look like, but the effort to make this place happen is very, very real. But we still have to wait until at least 2024 just to get it approved by the city. We've already waited. It'll be 3 years, basically, by the time that they vote on this, hopefully. But if it does get approved, which I expect that it will, we've got 30 years of construction updates waiting for us as they build all this, because it's going to take that long. Hopefully, I'm still alive when it's done. Thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. I appreciate that. And then follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please do join our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Baked. I mean, this feels... I think this might happen. God, that'd be cool. It'd be so cool. 13 attractions. What could we do with 5 thrill rides and 13 attractions? What would you build? You know what? I would love it. It would make my heart so happy if Disney could just find a way to lower their ambition. You know? Like, build me a Mr. Toad's. You know, it's so many opportunities for them to address guest desire for, you know, an attraction based on this movie or that, Turning Red, Pocahontas, you know, more Peter Pan, I guess, Tron. These are some of the things, by the way, Peter Pan and Tron that were sort of discussed in the old art. You can't look at that old art and say, oh my gosh, look what they're going to do. It doesn't. It's just blue sky. It's nothing. I think there was a Wakanda land suggested in that concept art. There's a big Black Panther, you know, face in the rocks or whatever. Anyway, I hope they think small. I really do. It would make me so happy. But I'm excited about this. I've actually, you know, just the prospect. I wish. Here's the thing that we got to be careful of, because I know, as I mentioned, you know, there's this whole desire we want this to be like Disney World. I know it's a popular or a common sentiment. We want it to have like a proper resort where we could spend a whole week bouncing. Oh God, and it's just a dream having, you know, 4 or 5 different parks that you could choose from. It'd be fun. I get it. It sounds fun. It really does. But Disney's not trying to buy property. This is it. This is going to be it. This Disneyland Forward thing for 30 years. And I know that's true. I know they're not trying to buy property because they've had opportunities and they didn't. 2 hotels were just sold on the opposite side of Ball Road for nothing, like $4 or $5 million, practically nothing. They were kind of run down, not top of the line hotels. They're disconnected from the park a little bit, but they were more connected than Toy Story is, or even that lot that Disney does own on the Caddy Corner on Ball and Harbor. You know, the I think it's a cast member parking lot right now. These 2 hotels were just sold. I can't remember the names of them, but for practically nothing. And Disney, I'm sure, had an opportunity to bid on those, and they couldn't possibly have underbid because they were wound up selling for $4 or $5 million. Disney could have just thrown a couple million on top of that and scooped those up easy. They didn't want them. Why didn't they want those hotels? It's because they want to be out of that business right now, at least. But I feel like they're going to regret that decision in the same way that Walt regretted not buying more property initially. That was one of the things he famously said when he revealed that he was buying all that property in Florida for Walt Disney World. He bought everything. He said, "Give me the lot. I'll take the lot. I'll take it all." Because he regretted not buying more. Because what happened around Disneyland, it just turned into this whole, you know, metro thing, and he wanted to control the environment more. When he did, to great effect at Walt Disney World. Man, I miss Walt Disney World. Oh man, I miss it so much. I've been twice now in the last year, and man, do I miss it. You guys have such a great thing there. I hope Walt Disney Worlders appreciate what a cool thing they have that they can have all to their own. I hope you guys appreciate it, because we can't even come close to that here. That's why we're so excited about Disneyland Forward. But that's it. That's as good as it's going to get for a very long time, 30 years at least. That's my belief anyway. I don't know, I'm rambling. I could talk about this forever, though. I've got to go edit this video, guys. So thanks for watching. We'll see you around.